You know, I've been practicing medicine for over 30 years now, and there's something I see almost every week in my clinic that genuinely concerns me. A patient walks in, they're clearly trying to do everything right. They tell me they walk every day, sometimes 2 or 3 miles, they eat salads, they avoid junk food, they take their vitamins, and yet they're sitting across from me wondering why they still feel tired by 2 in the afternoon, why their legs feel weak on stairs, why they just don't feel as strong as they think they should. And here's what surprises them most. When I review what they're actually doing, day by day, meal by meal, I often find the same pattern. These aren't people who are doing nothing. These are people who are genuinely trying. Active seniors, health conscious seniors, people who read labels and show up for their annual checkups. And yet, there's one mistake that keeps coming up over and over again, even among the most dedicated. It's something most people believe is perfectly fine, maybe even healthy, but after age 60, it can quietly work against you. The good news is, once you understand what's happening and why, the fix is surprisingly simple. It doesn't require expensive supplements or extreme diets or hours at the gym. It's about making a small shift in something you're already doing every single day. So if you've been feeling like your efforts aren't paying off the way they should, stay with me. This might be the missing piece. Let me give you a little background on why I feel so strongly about this. I've spent most of my career in internal medicine and geriatrics, working with adults over 50, 60, 70, and beyond. I've seen thousands of patients, and I've learned that the difference between aging well and struggling often comes down to a handful of daily habits, not genetics, not luck, not even access to the best medical care, though that certainly helps. It's the small things people do or don't do between doctor visits that shape how they feel and function. And what I've noticed, particularly in the last 10 or 15 years, is that many of my most active patients are making the same well-intentioned mistake. They're distributing their nutrition wrong throughout the day. Specifically, they're eating a light breakfast, a light lunch, and then a large dinner. And while this pattern might have worked fine at 40 or even 50, after 60, it starts to backfire in ways that aren't immediately obvious. You don't feel the damage right away, but over months and years, it adds up. So let's talk about what's actually going on, and more importantly, what you can do about it. Here's the pattern I see constantly. Someone wakes up, has a cup of coffee, maybe a piece of toast, or a small bowl of cereal. They're not very hungry in the morning, so they don't eat much. Then lunch comes around, and they have a salad, maybe with a little chicken or some cheese, or perhaps just soup. They're busy, they're active, they don't want to feel heavy in the afternoon. Then dinner arrives, and that's when they finally sit down for a real meal. A proper portion of protein, some carbohydrates, vegetables, maybe dessert. This is the meal where they actually eat. Now, on the surface, this seems reasonable. You're not overeating. You're choosing healthy foods. You're not snacking on junk. But here's the problem. Your body doesn't process food at 60 or 70 the way it did at 30 or 40. And the timing and distribution of what you eat matters far more than most people realize. Let me explain why this happens. As we age, our muscles become what researchers call anabolically resistant. That's a technical term, but what it means in plain language is this. Your muscles don't respond to protein as efficiently as they used to. When you were younger, a small amount of protein at a meal was enough to signal your muscles to maintain and repair themselves. But after about age 60, your body needs a higher threshold of protein at each meal to trigger that same muscle maintaining response. Think of it like a thermostat. When you were younger, the thermostat was very sensitive. A little bit of heat, meaning a little bit of protein, would kick on the system and keep things running smoothly. But as you age, that thermostat becomes less responsive. You need more heat to get the same effect. So if you're eating a light breakfast with just a piece of toast and a light lunch with a small salad, you're not reaching that threshold in the morning or midday. Your muscles aren't getting the signal they need to stay strong. Then dinner comes, and you eat a large portion of protein, maybe 6 or 8 ounces of chicken or fish or beef. And yes, your muscles finally get that signal. But here's the catch. Your body can only use so much protein at one time for muscle maintenance. The excess doesn't get stored for later. It gets processed differently, often converted to energy or simply excreted. So you end up in a situation where you're understimulating your muscles for 2/3 of the day and then overloading at night when your body can only use a portion of what you're giving it. The result? Over time, is a gradual loss of muscle mass and strength, even if you're staying active, even if you're walking every day, even if you feel like you're doing everything right. And it's not just about protein. The timing of your meals affects your energy levels, your blood sugar stability, your sleep quality, and even your balance and coordination. When you eat very little in the morning and midday, your blood sugar can dip, leaving you feeling tired, foggy, or shaky in the afternoon. Then, when you eat a large meal at night, your body has to work hard to digest it, which can interfere with sleep. I see this pattern all the time. Someone tells me they sleep poorly, they wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, they don't feel rested. And when I look at their eating pattern, there it is. Light, light, heavy, skewed toward the end of the day. Your body's metabolism also tends to be more efficient earlier in the day. There's solid research showing that we process carbohydrates better in the morning and midday compared to the evening. Eating the bulk of your calories at night goes against your body's natural rhythm, and after 60, that mismatch becomes more pronounced. So let's talk about the warning signs. How do you know if this pattern might be affecting you? You might notice that you feel fine in the morning but hit a wall in the afternoon, that 2 o'clock slump that people joke about. For many seniors, it's not just normal tiredness. It's a sign that your body hasn't been properly fueled. You might notice that you feel weaker than you think you should, especially when climbing stairs or getting up from a low chair or carrying groceries. If you're walking every day but still struggling with activities that require strength, that's a clue. You might notice that your grip isn't what it used to be. Opening jars, carrying bags, holding onto railings. Grip strength is one of the best predictors of overall muscle health, and when it starts to decline, it's often a sign of inadequate protein stimulation throughout the day. You might notice poor recovery after activity. You go for a walk or do some yard work, and the next day you're more sore or tired than you'd expect. That's your muscles telling you they don't have what they need to repair. You might notice cramps, especially at night. While there are many causes of muscle cramps, inadequate nutrition earlier in the day is one that's often overlooked. You might notice sleep fragmentation, waking up multiple times, difficulty falling back asleep, waking too early and not feeling rested. And you might notice balance issues, feeling less steady, needing to hold on to things more, hesitating at curbs or on uneven surfaces. Muscle strength and balance are closely connected, and when your muscles aren't being maintained, your stability suffers. Now, I want to be clear. Not everyone who eats this way will experience all of these symptoms, and there are certainly other causes for each of these issues. But when I see a cluster of these signs in someone who's otherwise healthy and active, the eating pattern is one of the first things I look at. So what's the solution? I'm going to share with you what I call the 3-meal reset. It's not a diet. It's not about eating less or eating more overall. It's about redistributing what you're already eating so that your body can actually use it. The first part of the reset is what I call front-loading your protein. This means making sure you get a meaningful amount of protein at breakfast and lunch, not just at dinner. For most people over 60, that means aiming for around 25 to 30 grams of protein at each of those meals. Now, I'm not asking you to weigh your food or count every gram obsessively, but I do want you to think about whether your breakfast and lunch actually contain a real protein source. Let me give you some examples of what 25 to 30 grams of protein looks like. That's about 3 eggs plus a glass of milk, or a cup of Greek yogurt with some nuts, or a chicken breast the size of your palm, or a cup of cottage cheese, or a piece of fish about the size of a deck of cards plus some beans. These aren't enormous portions, but they're more than a piece of toast with butter. They're more than a side salad with a sprinkle of cheese. If you're not used to eating protein at breakfast, this might feel like a change. But I've had many patients tell me that once they started eating a real breakfast with protein, their energy through the day improved dramatically. They stopped needing that afternoon nap. They felt steadier. Their mood was better. And interestingly, many of them found they weren't as hungry for that huge dinner because their body had been properly fueled throughout the day. The second part of the reset is balancing your plate at every meal. This means each meal should have 3 components: protein, some form of carbohydrate, and vegetables or fiber. I'm not asking you to follow a complicated plan. I'm asking you to look at your plate and ask yourself 3 questions. Where's my protein? Where's my energy source? Where's my fiber? For breakfast, that might be eggs, a piece of whole grain toast, and some berries or a small portion of fruit. For lunch, that might be grilled chicken, some rice or quinoa, and a serving of vegetables. For dinner, you can still have a proper meal, but it doesn't need to be twice the size of your other meals. The goal is evening things out. This balance helps stabilize your blood sugar, prevents those afternoon crashes, and gives your digestive system a more consistent workload throughout the day, rather than asking it to do almost nothing in the morning and then process a feast at night. The third part of the reset is what I call dinner moderation without deprivation. I'm not telling you to eat a tiny dinner or skip foods you enjoy, but I am suggesting that you redistribute some of what you'd normally eat at dinner to earlier in the day. If you typically have 8 ounces of meat at dinner, try having 5 or 6 and adding a real protein source to your breakfast. If you typically have a large portion of pasta or rice at dinner, try having some at lunch instead. Many people find that when they eat adequately in the morning and at midday, they're genuinely less hungry at night. Dinner becomes a normal meal rather than the meal. And this has benefits beyond muscle health. Eating a lighter dinner can improve sleep, reduce heartburn and reflux, and help with weight management. Now, I should pause here and mention something important. If you have diabetes, kidney disease, heart failure, or if you're on blood thinners or other medications that require dietary monitoring, please talk with your doctor or a registered dietitian before making significant changes to your eating pattern. What I'm describing is generally safe and beneficial for most healthy adults over 60, but your individual situation may require modifications. Let me share a few stories that illustrate how this works in real life. I had a patient a few years ago, a gentleman in his early 70s, who walked 2 miles every morning without fail. He was proud of his walking habit, and he should have been. It's wonderful for cardiovascular health. But he came to me frustrated because he felt weak. He struggled on stairs. He couldn't keep up with his grandchildren the way he wanted. When I looked at his eating pattern, there it was. Coffee and a banana for breakfast, a bowl of soup for lunch, and then a full dinner with meat and vegetables and bread. We made a simple change. He started eating 2 eggs and a piece of toast with his morning coffee. He added a piece of chicken or fish to his lunch. He didn't change his dinner much at all. Within about 2 months, he told me he felt like a different person. He had more energy in the afternoons. The stairs felt easier. He was sleeping better. His walking routine stayed exactly the same. The only thing that changed was how he distributed his food. Another patient, a woman in her late 60s, told me she ate very healthy. And looking at her food choices, she was right. She ate vegetables, fruits, whole grains, avoided processed food. But her meals were small and infrequent. She'd have yogurt for breakfast, a salad for lunch, and a decent dinner. She came to me complaining of fatigue and brain fog that started around 1 or 2 in the afternoon and lasted until bedtime. When we looked at the numbers, her breakfast and lunch combined had maybe 15 grams of protein. That's less than half of what her muscles needed to function optimally. We adjusted her breakfast to include more Greek yogurt plus eggs, and we added substantial protein to her lunch, like a piece of salmon or a cup of lentils. Within a few weeks, the afternoon fog lifted. She had consistent energy throughout the day. A third patient was an active man in his late 70s who came to me concerned about balance. He'd had a couple of near falls, and his wife was worried. He walked regularly and considered himself fit. But when I assessed him, his leg strength was weaker than expected, and his balance wasn't as steady as it should have been for someone so active. Again, the pattern emerged. Very light eating until dinner. His muscles were slowly weakening because they weren't getting the protein signal they needed, and his balance was suffering as a result. We added protein to his morning and midday meals, and we also incorporated some simple strength exercises, which I'll mention in a moment. Over about 3 months, his balance improved measurably, and his confidence returned. None of these were dramatic turnarounds. No one went from frail to running marathons, but all of them felt meaningfully better, and the changes they made were simple and sustainable. That's what I find most encouraging about this approach. It's not about perfection. It's about making a few practical adjustments that your body can actually respond to. So let me give you a simple routine you can start tomorrow morning. This is what I'd suggest for the first week as you begin to shift your pattern. When you wake up, have a full glass of water before your coffee. Your body has been without hydration for 7 or 8 hours, and starting with water helps your system wake up. Then, within about an hour of getting up, eat a real breakfast. Not a token breakfast, not just coffee. A breakfast with protein as the centerpiece. If you like eggs, Have 2 or 3 eggs with a slice of whole grain toast. If you prefer dairy, have a cup of Greek yogurt with some nuts and berries. If you enjoy smoothies, blend some protein powder or silken tofu with fruit and milk. The key is that protein is present and substantial. At lunch, make sure you have another protein source. This doesn't have to be complicated. A piece of grilled chicken on your salad, a can of tuna mixed with some mayo and vegetables, a bowl of bean soup with a piece of cheese, a turkey sandwich on whole grain bread. Look at your lunch and ask yourself, is there enough protein here to fill the palm of my hand? If the answer is no, add something. At dinner, eat normally, but notice if you're less hungry than usual. Many people find that when they've eaten adequately earlier, they're satisfied with a more modest dinner. You don't have to restrict yourself, just pay attention. Throughout the day, try to eat at somewhat regular intervals. Long gaps without food, especially in the morning and midday, contribute to the uneven pattern we're trying to fix. If you're someone who genuinely isn't hungry in the morning, start small. Have half a breakfast at first and build up. Your appetite will often adjust over a week or two. I'd also encourage you to add a few minutes of simple movement each day, ideally something that includes a strength component. Walking is wonderful, and I would never discourage it. But walking alone doesn't challenge your muscles enough to maintain strength as you age. Even adding 5 or 10 minutes of simple exercises can make a difference. Here's a safe routine that almost anyone can do. Stand behind a sturdy chair, holding the back for balance. Slowly rise up onto your toes, hold for 2 seconds, and lower back down. Do that 10 times. This strengthens your calves and ankles. Then, still holding the chair, slowly bend your knees into a small squat, just a few inches, and stand back up. Do that 10 times. This works your thighs and hips. Finally, while holding the chair, lift one foot slightly off the ground and balance on the other leg for 10 to 15 seconds. Then, switch. This challenges your balance in a safe way. These exercises take about 5 minutes. They require no equipment except a chair. They can be done in your kitchen or living room, and they complement the nutrition changes by giving your muscles a reason to stay strong. If you feel unsteady or have pain, stop and consult with your doctor or a physical therapist. But for most people, these are safe and effective starting points. I want to address one concern I hear often. Some people tell me they're not hungry in the morning and they don't want to force themselves to eat. I understand that. I'm not asking you to stuff yourself, but I would encourage you to experiment. Sometimes, lack of morning hunger is itself a result of the pattern we're discussing. When you eat heavily at night, your body is still digesting when you wake up, which suppresses morning appetite. If you start eating a bit lighter at dinner and give your body time to adjust, you may find that your morning appetite returns. Start small if you need to. Even a boiled egg and a piece of cheese is better than just coffee. Over time, work toward a more substantial breakfast. Give it 2 or 3 weeks before deciding whether it's working for you. Another concern I hear is about cost and convenience. Protein sources like meat and fish can be expensive, and not everyone has time to cook elaborate meals. I want to reassure you that this approach doesn't require expensive or fancy foods. Eggs are one of the best and most affordable protein sources available. Canned beans, lentils, peanut butter, cottage cheese, milk, and canned fish like tuna or sardines are all economical options. You don't need grass-fed steak for breakfast. You need consistent, adequate protein from whatever sources work for your budget and preferences. And it doesn't require extensive cooking. A hard-boiled egg takes minutes to prepare and can be made ahead. A container of Greek yogurt just needs a spoon. A can of beans can be added to a salad in seconds. Keep it simple. The goal is sustainability, not gourmet perfection. Let me also address the question of supplements. Some people ask me whether they should use protein powders or shakes to meet their protein needs. My answer is that whole foods are always preferable when possible. There's something about eating real food, the chewing, the variety of nutrients, the satisfaction, that supplements don't fully replicate. But I'm also practical. If having a protein shake at breakfast is the difference between getting adequate protein and not, then a shake is a reasonable option. Look for one with at least 20 grams of protein per serving and without excessive added sugars. Use it as a tool, not a replacement for real meals entirely. Similarly, I sometimes get asked about meal timing and intermittent fasting. There's been a lot of popular interest in fasting protocols where people skip breakfast or limit eating to certain hours of the day. For some younger adults, this approach may have benefits. But for older adults, especially those concerned about maintaining muscle mass, I'm generally cautious about extended fasting periods. When you fast, you go many hours without giving your muscles the protein signal they need. Remember, your muscles are already more resistant to that signal as you age. Adding long fasting periods on top of that resistance can accelerate muscle loss, even if you're eating enough total calories. If you're interested in some form of time-restricted eating, I'd encourage you to talk with your doctor and consider a less extreme version, perhaps a 12-hour eating window that includes breakfast, rather than skipping morning meals entirely. Now, let's talk about what you might notice as you make these changes. In the first week, you may simply feel different, not necessarily better yet, but different. Your body is adjusting to a new pattern. You might find that dinner feels less necessary, that you're sleeping a bit more soundly, that your afternoon energy is more stable. By the end of the second or third week, many people report noticeable improvements. Less fatigue, better focus, feeling stronger on stairs or when walking, less reliance on that afternoon nap. By 1 to 2 months, if you've been consistent, you may notice changes in your strength and balance. Activities that felt difficult may become easier. You may find yourself more willing to take on physical tasks because you trust your body more. These aren't dramatic transformations, they're gradual improvements, but they add up. And they represent your body responding to what it actually needs, rather than struggling against a pattern that works against it. I want to emphasize that this isn't about willpower or discipline. It's about understanding how your body works at this stage of life and working with it instead of against it. No one is expecting you to be perfect. You'll have days where breakfast is rushed or lunch gets skipped. That's fine. The goal is to shift the overall pattern, not to achieve some impossible ideal. And I want to acknowledge that everyone's situation is different. Some of you are caring for a spouse with health challenges. Some of you are dealing with your own medical conditions. Some of you have digestive issues that make certain foods difficult. Some of you live alone and find it hard to motivate yourself to cook. All of these factors are real, and they matter. What I'm offering is a framework, a way of thinking about your daily eating pattern that can be adapted to your circumstances. Maybe for you, the solution is having hard-boiled eggs ready in the refrigerator. Maybe it's keeping cans of beans in the pantry. Maybe it's a quick smoothie in the morning because you don't feel like chewing. Maybe it's a standing lunch with a friend where you encourage each other to order protein-rich meals. Find what works for you and build on it. If you've been watching this video and recognizing yourself in what I've described, I want you to know that you're not alone. This pattern, the light breakfast, light lunch, heavy dinner pattern, is incredibly common. It's how many of us were raised. It's how modern life often unfolds, with busy mornings and distracted middays and finally sitting down in the evening. But it's not serving you well at this stage. And the beautiful thing is that changing it doesn't require anything radical. It requires awareness and a few practical adjustments that you can start tomorrow. Before I close, let me ask you something. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me how old you are and where you're watching from. I'm always amazed at how this channel reaches people all over the world, and it reminds me that these concerns about health and aging are universal. And tell me, what's the hardest part for you? Is it breakfast? Do you struggle to eat in the morning? Is it lunch? Do you find yourself grabbing whatever's convenient? Or is it consistency? Do you know what to do but have trouble sticking with it? Your answers help me understand what to cover in future videos, and they help other viewers feel less alone in their challenges. If you found this helpful, I'd be grateful if you'd hit the like button and consider subscribing. I make these videos because I genuinely believe this information can help people feel better and live more fully. Every like and subscription helps more people find this content, and that's the whole point. I'll leave you with this thought. The difference between aging well and struggling is rarely one big thing. It's not about finding some magic supplement or having perfect genes or never eating dessert. It's about the small choices you make every day, choices that either support your body or work against it. What I've shared with you today, this idea of distributing your protein and your meals more evenly throughout the day, is one of those small choices that can make an outsized difference. It's not glamorous. It won't make headlines. But for your muscles, your energy, your balance, your sleep, and your overall quality of life, it matters deeply. You have more control over how you age than you might realize. Not total control, of course. Life has a way of surprising us, but more control than most people exercise. And it's never too late to start making changes. Whether you're 62 or 75 or 88, your body will respond to being treated well. It wants to function, it wants to be strong. It just needs you to give it what it needs. So tomorrow morning, start there. Have a real breakfast. Include some protein. Notice how you feel. Build from there. Small steps, taken consistently, lead to real change. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.